Hey friend, John McLennan here, and in this video, you're gonna learn some soloing tips on how to play over Eric Clapton's Let It Rain. Now in this video, we're gonna talk about the chord progression that the guitar solo is over, and I'm gonna break down his main melody so we can take a look at that and learn that note for note, and then from there, we're gonna analyze that melody and try and figure out the scales that we can play with those chords. And there are a number of approaches that you could take to play over this chord progression, and I'm just going to show you some of my thought process on how I figure out soloing over tunes. But before we jump in, if you're new here and haven't downloaded my fretboard guide, this is going to show you the 5 chords and scales that I use to map out the entire fretboard, and it's going to explain major scales and pentatonic scales, and it ties right in with today's lesson because we're talking about soloing, and you have to know where those notes are on the neck to start putting this together. So grab this guide completely for free. Just go to johnmclennan.com/fretboard guide. That's johnmclennan.com/fretboard guide, or use the first link down below as my gift to you. All right, well, with that said, let's break it down. Let's break down some soloing ideas for Let It Rain as recorded by Eric Clapton. Now, the guitar solo happens over this vamp that's just a 4-bar chord progression. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it repeats right there. So essentially what it is just 2 chords. It's an A chord down to a G shape here, but keeping that A in the bass. So we would call that a G over A. And then it comes back up. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3, and then it restarts right there, okay? So just those 2 chords. So what I would do if I was trying to figure out maybe the key or a scale to use is I would look at the melody that's going on at that point in the song. So Clapton is doing some harmonized guitar parts there, but the melody that's happening is this line that goes like this. So if I put that over the progression, you could hear it sounds like this. So that's the melody there. Now if I add up all those notes and just sort of take stock of them, we've got then. So all those notes put together are these notes. It's D, E, F sharp, G, A, which is actually the first part of a D major scale. This is the whole scale there that I would associate with this shape, if you know your caged system, this shape here. And what that is a D major scale. The root is right here or right here. So you could solo a D major scale over this progression. And I'll give you an example of me using, primarily those notes and thinking about just staying in that one key. So essentially, I'm just using these notes, And improvising with them. So that would be sort of one way of looking at the progression. Now, another way of looking at it would be using what I call chord tones or arpeggios. And if we think about those actual chords, A down to G, we've got 3 notes in each of those chords. So in A, we have an A, a C sharp, and an E. So wherever you can play those notes on the neck, those notes will sound great over this chord because they're the chord tones. So from there, you can move it down 2 frets and you've got all the notes for G, which are going to be the notes G, B, and D. So for A, I've got this, and G. So I'm just seeing those shapes on the guitar and using those notes and trying to find cool ways of connecting them. And it doesn't have to be just those notes. Like I might go, you know, and use some chromatics or things to connect those chord shapes. All right, and the last way you could interpret this progression, and this is something that I would use a lot, more of like a Southern rock kind of sound, an Allman Brothers sound, is that over the A chord, you could play the A major pentatonic. And then when it goes to the G chord, you could play an A blues sound. So now the easiest way would just be play, you know, A major pentatonic over both of those, and I'll show you what that sounds like. So that sounds great. Now, if you want to mix that with another color, when the band goes down to that G, then go to an A blues kind of sound. Here's an example of that. So you could hear that little color change there, and it gets a little bit more dissonant, right? And then you'll notice that I brought it back home to the A chord for that resolution. I mean, if you stay on the blues sound, it's cool. It's just a little bit of a tension there, so you don't want to overdo it, or it can just sound like you're just playing like, you know, minor pentatonic over everything. But when you resolve it, it sounds more like you're playing the changes. So remember that there are a number of approaches and ways of thinking about soloing over this. In my mind, I'm trying to find the simplest ways. And one of the ways that I think about this is through my fretboard guide, and I want to give it to you completely for free. Just go to johnmclennan.com/fretboard guide or use the first link down below. And this is going to show you the 5 chords and scales that I use to map out the entire fretboard. And you really want to know this stuff and where those notes are off the chords to be able to solo over a progression like this. So grab your copy at the first link down below, or again, just go to johnmclennan.com/fretboard guide. Next, I want to hear from you. Let me know down below your #1 struggle with soloing. Just comment it down below so I can make some more videos here on the channel helping you out. Be sure to also check out, if you haven't seen it yet, the song lesson that I have just breaking down the chords and the rhythm for the rest of this song. As always, thanks for your support with the videos, and we'll see you in another one real soon.